Yes, people. Welcome back to the Armoury TV. GTalks Arsenal here, your host for today's show, where basically we're going to be, asking the question: what do Arsenal do now, given obviously Jesus' injury at this year's World Cup? But before we hit that intro, obviously, as you can see, very festive in my background, and obviously in Tony's. Gumsa's not so much, but I know he's full of festive cheer as always. But yeah, Tony, how you doing, bro?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm not good. Bit weird, isn't it, these last couple of days with no football? But I had to sit down and watch Stockport County versus Charlton last night, so there was a little bit there. But Stockport won 3-1 if you're interested. They're through to the next round in the FA Cup. But yeah, no, I'm good. I'm ready to talk about this Jesus situation.
Wicked. Gumsa, how you doing, bro?
I'm good, brother. Just like Tony said, it was just kind of finding things to do. Just going back to finding my podcast and stuff because no football for a few days is bored me a little bit. But it's been we enjoyed the World Cup. It's been some good games, and it's just having something on TV. You could just switch on the channel. There it is. Let's go. So happy, but buzzing to get back to Arsenal. Bought my Arsenal Juventus tickets yesterday.
Nice.
So heading down there next Saturday.
Because we've actually got a friendly today, haven't we, against Lyon?
Today, yeah.
So getting the boys up to speed, aren't they? So
yeah.
I'm thinking our team will be okay next week. Still, actually, I think before you're thinking, do I want to go to it? But kind of seeing what players are there. Obviously, Xhaka's back, so first team boys are back. So
that one in there, innit? But yeah, man.
But to be fair, we didn't send that many players to the World Cup anyway, so it is pretty much, quite a strong squad we're having these friendly games if they play the main squad. So looking forward to that one.
Wicked. But yeah, man, we'll run the intro and then we'll get stuck into it, man.
Can we just?
Go on, Tony. I know you had something to say just before.
No. I just want to pick up Gumsa 1 minute on his Pride of Reading Award that he got last week. So congratulations, big man.
I'll go get the trophy for you in a minute. Thank you. No, I appreciate it. Yeah, it's
definitely.
It was a real honor. Yeah, appreciate it.
No, definitely, man. Big up that for real, man. Good shout, Tony. But yeah, obviously we're here. I think pre-World Cup, I think there was always a little bit of nerves amongst us Gooners, just how, that the World Cup would impact us. We had the momentum, we were top of the league, 5 points clear. And I think there was a difference in opinion. I think some people felt it was perfect timing. It was a case of, some players would go, not too many. But I mean, we could pick up some players maybe in January and go again. Others felt it was worse timing. We had the momentum, it was literally what we didn't need. We kind of just needed game after game. We were on a good run. But in the back of our minds, I think we were all slightly fearing the potential for Arsenal players getting injured, particularly some key members. I think when you look at the spine of the Arsenal team, Jesus, Partey, in particular, Saliba, for example. And obviously we got the news, a couple of days or a week ago that, Gabriel Jesus did pick up an injury. The first reports were that it wasn't likely to be torn, it wasn't likely to ruin his tournament, probably was just going to miss a game or so. Then it transpired it was going to be about a 3-week absence. He wasn't going to be no longer in the tournament. And now, after a scan, he's had surgery, which has gone successful, which the club have announced. He's likely to miss anywhere between 10 to 12 weeks, up to 3 months, and some really big games in January when the season kicks off again on Boxing Day. So I'll come to you first, Tony. First of all, how are you feeling about obviously the news that Gabriel Jesus is injured? And as the question says on the show, what do we do now in order to keep our title hopes alive?
Look, I have to say, I had a horrible feeling out of all the players that was going to go to the World Cup, it was going to be him. It was going to be him. Because not only does he offer you goals and assists, it's everything else he does before that. He's always involved. No matter where you are on the pitch, and it's just typical. It had to be that guy. What do we need to do? Well, ideally, we do need to go into the market, but we all know how tough January can be. And we need a player really who's ready and and maybe similar to what Jesus has been doing, because you don't want to change it too much. You know what I mean? Trust in Eddie. It's a funny one, but obviously it's Gumsa's guy, and he's going to talk about him in a minute. Oh, what I'd like to think with Eddie is he's been training with Jesus for a while now, and they both said they've been working together in training. And when we've seen Eddie this season, it's been a few minutes off the bench, and if he's starting, it's not with the likes of Martinelli, Saka, Odegaard, Xhaka, party behind them. So I'd like to think that he's worked on that and he can do what Jesus does. Obviously, he's not going to be at the level, but enough to do. Look, we saw it at the tail end of the last season when we played Chelsea, and he came in, and he has Chelsea defence and got 2 goals out of it. So I like to think he'll do that. I like to think he's worked. Obviously, he's bulked up. We've seen that he's beefed up a little bit as well.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I mean, look, we got games in December, so he's going to be playing. Let's see what he does.
Yeah, for real. Gumsa, right over to you. First of all, obviously, how are you feeling about the injury? What do we do?
It's a hard one because, again, any player can get injured at any time, isn't it? It could be in training, it could be in a match. So I think with the World Cup, for me, the main scare I had was Partey, and that's not even to do with the World Cup. It's every game I go into, I'm scared for Partey because I know he'll be such a big miss. I think the biggest problem with it being Jesus, and it's kind of what Tony said, is it's the market. I think if Partey gets injured, you could probably find a replacement a lot easier. It's probably going to be cheaper, and I think you can get a better level willing to come knowing his role, if that makes sense. So someone coming in who's a centre midfielder, just say we call Ruben Neves or Tillemans or someone like that, I think they come into the club, the standard doesn't drop too much from Partey, and they know their role. Do you know what I mean? I'm going to start maybe 60% of games, whatever it is. I think they'd be a bit more happy with the rotation. We've seen it. It's notoriously difficult to buy a second striker. A backup striker is a hard thing to find at the moment who is of a good level. Hence why Eddie, I think, got the contract, because who else is going to be happy to sit on the bench and play 15 minutes a match and 1 game in Europe every 2 weeks, whatever it is. So again, it's now, how do you find that replacement to replace Jesus? Because after the injury, we were expecting Jesus to go back in. Now, football's football. If someone comes in and he hits the ground running and he's firing on all cylinders, Jesus might have to now deal with the bench until he can win his shirt back. Do you know what I mean? So if you believe in yourself, you could take the challenge. But I think these things play a major part in it. Again, teams are going to know we're desperate to a certain degree. So someone that might have cost us 50 million as a striker now is probably costing you 60, 70. So teams are going to try and hold us to ransom. In terms of Eddie, I have no issues with Eddie. My main concern is the criticism here if we drop points somewhere along the line. Everyone's going to automatically look to blame him. As I said in a group chat before, we can get beat 3-2. He scores 2 worldies, and we'll still be, if Jesus was playing, he would have controlled that ball better in the 65th minute. He would have won the header. Like, we will look for them excuses. We will do it. I do it with Xhaka. We will do it. So we're looking for the excuses. Tony knows when there's ever holding place, people look straight away to Holding. No one looks at the 5 bad passes, the missed tackles before that. It's just Holding didn't win the header. They scored a goal. And so that's my only fear for Eddie. So for me, it would be actually, I'd rather aspire striker just to take that pressure off him, because I think the criticism he's going to come under if we don't win every game is going to be unreal. And unfairly. Do you know what I mean? Until we play the game, we don't know. But as Tony said, we haven't seen Eddie with the main 11 for a long time. He's been playing in the European matches, and it's been little cameo roles. So yeah, I'm hoping he comes in and does all right. The good thing is it's the injuries at the start of the transfer window as such. So we can play 2 or 3 games. If it's not working right, we need to go and get someone. Whereas if it came at the end of the window, a bit like the El Nene injury, it's kind of like, oh, let's see if we could just get through. Where at least we're going to have a few weeks to see how we're working before we dip into that window. So yeah, it's sad it's Jesus. However, I'm probably not as fearful as some are kind of making out. Because again, I believe in Arteta and his tactical adjustments. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We've seen how we adapt when different players come in and play, how we may change the system a little bit. So yeah, I've kind of just got to roll with the punches. This is part of football, isn't it?
What is interesting though about this Jesus injury is that the same sections of Arsenal fans that were really questioning Jesus's goal contributions, you know, leading up to the World Cup, you know, got 5 goals, not scoring enough, not prolific, missing chances. He's got to get more goals. Are the same fans now that are absolutely crapping it going into obviously January without him, which is what I don't get with our fan base a lot of the time. It's like, you know, sections of our fan base are so reactionary. Like for me, I didn't question Jesus since the start of the season. I do think there have been times where he could have scored goals, could have taken opportunities that he should have. But at the end of the day, this is football. Like anybody that's played football, watched football, or any experience at any level knows that, you know, what we have in Jesus is a phenomenal player. We don't have an absolute complete player. We don't have, you know, a GOAT. We've got a really good centre forward that, yes, he has his real quality attributes, but then there are certain things part of his game that is kind of lacking. So, but I just find it funny that there is now this massive reaction. And I'm seeing particular people and groups on Twitter that and YouTube that, like I say, were saying, you know, he's not doing enough, he's not contributing. Now all of a sudden, you know, they're absolutely crapping it ahead of January without him. So I think that one is interesting. I think the point you made, you know, and before I say that, if you look at the title of the show, it's like, what do we do? I think the question really is 2 questions. It's like, as fans, I think we all individually would do something. But then we've also got to take into account that obviously we're not the ones making the decision, it's the club. Now, I've seen a lot of reports. Obviously, with Arsenal, you just never know what's real, what's not. But going into the January market, the reported plan was to go for a wide player and a DM, a number 6, somebody who can deputise for Partey. Now, you know, reliable sources close to the club, reporters that we're led to believe are pretty reliable, are saying that Arsenal are not going to divert from that plan of a wide player and a DM. Now, what's your reaction? If that's true, and Arsenal stick to the plan of a wide player and a DM to come in January, what's your initial reaction to that if that's true, Gumsa? Based on the fact that now Jesus is good.
I think stick with the plan. I understand we're in a position where we never thought we'd be at the start of the season. Again, in a position of power where the right signings can propel us forward. We might make 4 unbelievable signings this window and still not win the league. We might make 0 signings and win the league. So for me, the plan's important. There's options. I know we've spoken about. I love Will Saha, and if he's not a part of the plan, he could easily be a quick fix. He could play on the wing. He can play up front. Centre forward is not his best position, but he can do it. So that's a quick fix to me. But then you might miss out on Mudryk, who might be your long-term plan. So for me, rather than bringing in a stopgap, which may help, I'm not saying it's not. We may look back at it and think, oh God, I said we look at last season not bringing in Bruno Guimaraes, and we missed out on Champions League by 1 game, and he might have made the difference in one of them games. It might have been, but for me, the long-term plan is more important. Yes, would I love to win the league? Obviously, we'd love to win the league, but as I said, even with 4 world-class signings, we're not guaranteed that because we're not playing any ordinary team in the City team. Do you know what I mean? It's they can go on and do what we've seen them doing every year since Pep's been there. So for me, I would stick to the plan. I would make do with Eddie, and potentially Martinelli can go out there if need be. Again, this is where Arteta earns his money. Do you know what I mean? It's where you have to coach. You have to find. Do you know what I mean? You have to find a way around it. We've done it with the right back situation when Tomiyasu was injured at the start of the season. It's, oh my God, how are we going to cope? Ben White's come in and we've adapted, and all of a sudden now Tomiyasu can't get his shirt back. Left back last season, Tierney's out, and our season crumbles. And
Yeah,
do you know
it's
what I mean?
true.
All of a sudden we bring in another left back who changes the style a little bit. We now play with the inverted on the left, and now Tierney is probably fourth choice left back at the moment if we're
Yeah.
playing the style we're playing, because we've seen Tomiyasu start ahead of him and we've seen Cedric come on before him. So there was a lot of things that we couldn't cope without Tierney. We couldn't cope without this person, and we've adapted and adjusted, and it's kind of clicked. So yeah, for me, we have to find a way. In terms of finishing, I think Eddie, I wouldn't say he's a better finisher than Jesus, but he does score goals inside the box. I think the bit where we may lack is the game involvement, like when we see Jesus come deep, get the ball and stuff like that. But again, this may be a little adjustment. There's a video, it's a real good angle. It's like behind the goal of Ramsdale, and Arsenal are playing football. It's left and right, left and right. Jesus drops in and Xhaka goes longer, and do you know what I mean? There's a bit of rotation, and that may have to change slightly. It might now mean Xhaka, you can't play behind Jesus. Actually, you've got to come deeper and support the ball and then play. And do you know what I mean? So it might just be little tactical changes we make. It might then be Tierney comes back in and we play with the natural four at the back with the two. Do you know what I mean? Xhaka and Partey sitting together, and rather than the inverted left back. So there's lots of different changes that Arteta can make. I just feel we just gotta wait and see, because we've done this numerous times. We react, we scream, we shout. We didn't sign a centre midfielder. The world's gonna end, and we're top of the league. So whatever those guys decide, you just gotta go with. But for me, I wouldn't be deviating away from the plan. If Mudryk is the guy we want, again, that's a 10-year plan rather than a 6-month plan. And to me, it makes sense, because if we were stacked up in them areas and we had the two left wingers, the two right wingers, the two centre mids, the two defensive mids, we had everything, and then he gets injured and you think, well, 6 months, I'll just bring someone in just to fill the gap, then just go and get Ronaldo or someone. Do you know what I mean? But this is a long-term plan. Our squad's not Man City squad where they might just bring someone in just to fill a quick little temporary hole. We're still trying to build our squad properly. So for me, I wouldn't deviate away from the plan. I would get the long-term replacement, and whoever that is, we don't know. Do you know what I mean? But it sounds like Mudryk is the one they want.
Yeah. Are you in the same corner, Tony, with regards to like sticking to the plan rather than reacting to the situation we're in?
No, I do. I agree with what Gumsa was saying there. And there's a comment that James just put up as well, which I was going to touch on myself. We've got options. We do have other options in Martinelli, and with Smith Rowe coming back, he can then go back in that left position. If we do get Mudryk, which is obviously the main target for us, he'll be playing there anyway. So, and look, it may cost us in the long run, but we have got to trust Eddie. We've got to trust Eddie. Like he's been training with the team. Like I said, he's been working with Jesus, and I like to think that he's gonna he's not going to be like for like, but it'll be enough. Most of our goals haven't come from striker anyway. They come from positions in midfield. So yeah, if we just stick to the plan, that's why I say stick to the plan. What will be will be. Hey, I mean, every team's going to get injuries. I'm sure Man City are going to have their problems. We all know about Haaland and his muscle problems. He might have a few weeks off himself, and they're going to have to change the way they play. They're going to have to go back to the way they played before. So, and it might hurt them. So let's just concentrate on us going forward. Stick to the plan, and then Martinelli can do a job up front as well. I know that, and he does all the nasty bits as well. He gets stuck in at the back as well. So I'm gonna listen. I'm gonna trust the process, and I may get reactionary at times, going, "Oh, why didn't we get a striker?" But actually, in the long term, we all know. Well, us sensible ones, we know what's going on. We know what we're trying to do.
Yeah. I think it. We were talking kind of before the stream, and I think it really does depend on where you sit in terms of the players that we've got in our current squad. Do you know what I mean? Like, I know obviously Gumsa, is Team Eddie. Trusts him. And to be fair, a lot of the points Gumsa makes about him not really getting a run in the team, not playing with the first team players, it is hard to judge Eddie. It is, because you have to take those things into account. I'm not his biggest fan, but I try to be as fair as possible. And there is a difference between, playing week in, week out, than being in and out of the side, or playing with, players in the team that are not as good. Because you can't compare our Europa League team as a collective to our first 11 that plays in the Premier League. So it is really difficult. And I do take that into account. So I think it kind of depends where you sit in terms of, and I think a lot of it is to do is how do you see, how much do you have faith in Eddie, but also how much faith do you have in terms of Martinelli playing through the middle? Now, I have no issue with Martinelli and what he's doing. I think he's absolutely phenomenal. I can't wait for him to sign that contract. I'm getting a little bit more and more nervous about the fact that he hasn't signed it. However, what he's doing on the left for me is like I said, it's breathtaking. You've even seen it at the World Cup with Brazil in a couple of the times he's come on. My only issue is I've seen him play in the middle. I can only go by what I've seen, and it wasn't great. Now, I do know that was some time ago, but for me, he looked completely lost playing in the middle for Arsenal in a couple of the games I saw him. So, I mean, like I said before, I think it's a case of, in a comparison of what would you do and what will the club do. For me, like I said before, stream when we were talking, I'm old school in that I do still feel like we need an out-and-out number 9, an out-and-out goal scorer. Jesus contributes. We don't seem to have an issue scoring, so that's why I don't really have an issue with the fact he's only got 5 goals, and he does, occasionally miss some chances. As you know, I don't have a huge amount of faith in Eddie. So for me personally, I would like us not necessarily to sign a striker in January, but I definitely want long-term for us to sign an alternative to Eddie, possibly move Eddie on, and then bring in Balogun for him to get his chances, maybe the third option. That's what I would do. But realistically, at the end of the day, Eddie signed a new contract, 100K a week. He's been given a number 14. You don't do that unless you trust the player, or unless you see that player having a future at the club. So there's no point me banging on about, let's go and get Vlahovic, let's go and get Ivan Toney, because let's be real, it's not going to happen. There's nothing there that's giving us an indication that after signing him up for another 4 or 5 years, 100K a week, and giving him the number 14, that all of a sudden he's going to get rid of him in January and buy Vlahovic. It just doesn't seem realistic. So it is a difficult one. I mean, in terms of like my perception, like, what I would do in terms of what I think the club's going to do. I think, like you both said, I think the club's going to stick to the plan. I think they're going to buy a wide player. I think they're going to buy a defensive midfielder, somebody to come in and play as that number 6, because realistically, El Neni's going at the end of the season. He's out of contract. Lokonga is not a number 6, in my opinion. And I think his future at the club, I know this is something that me and Gumsa probably clash on again as well. I think his future at the club is very uncertain, in all honesty, with what's going on in that number 8 position, given the fact that you've got Xhaka doing his thing, given the fact that you've got Vieira coming in against Wolves, played very, very well. Patino is having a very successful loan at the club he's at. You've also got Zinchenko, who can come in there. So I think the number 8, I can't see Arsenal buying a number 8 in January, buying a number 8 in the summer. I just don't think it's a priority. I think the number 6 role is, because without Partey, as Gumsa and just Tony, you alluded that we have a real issue with him. If we lose him, the spine of that side just completely changes. So I think we'll go for a wide player. I think we go for a DM. In terms of the wide player, I mean, we've got Modric, obviously heavy links, but some of the other players that we've recently been linked with, and he's a player that supposedly Arsenal has previously tried to sign twice, and that is Joe Felix at Atletico Madrid. Now, they bought him for over 100 million. They are, if you want to believe reports, looking for somewhere between 100 to 140 million euros. He recently signed a new contract, or signed a long contract, which means it doesn't end or expire until 2026. Now, looking at the current attackers that we've got, looking at the Jesus injury, looking at all the links and stuff like that, is João Felix a player that you would, one, like to come to the carpet, or two, think there is any real truth in these rumors whatsoever? Tony, I'll come to you because I saw you shaking your head straight away.
I just don't think he'll suit the Premier League, if I'm honest. Not just Arsenal, but the Premier League in general. I think it'd be too much for him. And I don't think it'd be the answer. What is actually his position anyway?
He's very versatile.
Striker. He
can play winger as 9. Second striker. He can play. I mean, in that kind of number 8 position. I think he's very versatile. And I think that kind of ties into, if you look at the players that Mikel Arteta has signed. I mean, versatility seems to be, the common trend throughout all the signings he's made, but just not for you, no?
No, I don't think he's strong enough for the Premier League. He's a good player, don't get me wrong. We've seen what he's done during the World Cup. We've seen it before the World Cup. He's a very good player, but when it comes to the physicality of the Premier League, I don't know. He needs to go to Wolves, or say that's where they trial Portuguese players. Let him go there. Let's see what he does. I don't know. It's just it's a funny one. I just don't think he's strong enough, and and for the price they want for him, nah, I don't. I'm just not feeling it. I'm just not feeling it. That's all I'm saying.
What about you, Gumsa? João Felix, you reckon it's just the fact that he's in the World Cup, the Jesus injuries happened? Do you think there's any real, obviously, evidence that we're in for him? And is he a player that you'd want at Arsenal?
In terms of, do I think we're in for him? I don't think so. I think that price range, that target is way out of our price range at this moment in time. So I don't think we'll be getting him. But that is the kind of player who I'd like to see at the carpet. He brings the level of quality up. Tony, don't rub your eyes with me, son. We look at things sometimes too black and white. If he comes in, this person's not going to play, or he's a quality footballer, and it brings the level of the squad up. Yes, at the moment we have to improve the 11. Get the 11's almost there. I would say. I think the 11 is literally there. We can. If this 11's fit every week, we look good. It's now bringing in the rest of the squad. Right, this is not working. We need to change it. We're playing a low block. These lot have got 10 man behind the ball. This number 8 we got to play now needs to be a bit more flary, or other guys getting marked out of the game. We need to bring someone in there who can unlock. Do you know what I mean? We need different options. So for me, someone like him brings a lot of quality and improves the squad massively. It's an upgrade on, if you look at all the backup players, if you look all the backup attacking players, so you could put Smith Rowe, you could put Vieira, who else is on the backup of them? Nketiah.
You'd see him as a backup.
He's got to break in. Everyone's got to earn their right to play. Okay. So that's how football is for me. It's you earn your right. If he comes in and doesn't hit the ground running, Jesus starts. Odegaard's the 10. Well, again, if he comes in now and Jesus is fit, whose shirt you taking? So you've got to go and grab his shirt. So he has to earn the right to be playing. But again, if you look, if he came in right now, does he improve our squad? 100% he improves our squad. And class is permanent. Do you know what I mean? He's having a bad time at Atletico, but I don't put that on him. I look at the team he's playing in, the manager. It's not going to suit him. He will go somewhere else and absolutely flourish. And all of a sudden, people, do you know what I mean? Sometimes it's just the system you're in just doesn't work for you, and you go somewhere else, and all of a sudden it clicks again. So, yeah, for me, it's nice to be linked with those kind of players. I don't think it will happen, but yeah, I wouldn't be against someone like him coming in if it was to happen.
Yeah, I hear you. I put this comment up. This came in a little while ago, but I thought we'd kind of save it until we started to talk about potential players coming to the club.
So now, I just want to take a GTalks before you go on. In comparison to with Felix, he reminds me of someone like how we had Kanu at the club, where you might have Bergkamp and Armoury just starters, but when he comes on, he just brings something different. Do you know what I mean? You've got no issues if he starts a game, but when he comes on, he's just that enigma. I mean, he brings quality, and this is where we need to get to. It's different options. Do you know what I mean? Some of the issues we have is, like you said, with a big striker.
Yeah.
Because Jesus might not be getting any joy because you're playing against some robust strikers. Also, you bring on Eddie Nketiah, he's not going to bring anything different. Now, if
Yeah.
you bring on Giroud, he might just be able to rough up two centre backs, which then create space for someone else, and it's just them other options. Do you know what I mean? So
that's what it is for me in terms of the centre forward, because for me, I think over the 14, 15 games we played, I think we played exceptionally well. I think the vast majority of those games we dominated possession, we carved the teams open, we made chances. I can't see us consistently performing like that across 38 games. Now, I think there were some games where we literally found a way to win, or we found a way to draw the match. And I think there were some games where we didn't. Obviously, the United game, for example. I just feel like, you know, it is important, like you said with João Felix, it is important to have other options. Things, you know, when liquid football just isn't working, you know, you can get wide and you can ping crosses into the box. And you've got like an Ivan Toney or Vlahovic, who is, you know, or Mitrovic, somebody who is quite, you know, predatory in the box, somebody that is a focal point in that 6-yard box. I think it's important. But I think, as you also said, Gumsa, it's difficult to buy a second striker or a top quality striker that knows coming to the club, they're going to have to sit out quite a few games because Jesus will be playing. I think that's difficult, and I don't want to talk about them, but Spurs have proven that. You know, they've proven that season after season, every single time they've tried to get a second striker, they've either not been good or they've just not been able to get somebody to come in and basically deputize for Kane. Yeah, they've had a few, you know, and they've just not worked. So it is easier said than done. It is, because at the end of the day, if you go out there and you spend 50, 60 million, say 40 to 60 million on Ivan Toney, one, that's a huge amount of money for a player that's not guaranteed a starting spot when Jesus is fit. And two, is he going to want to come in and play second fiddle to Jesus? You know, whatever club Ivan Toney's going to go to, I'm sure that he's going to want. People say, you know, football is about money, 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 money. Yes, they are. We know that. It's the culture of the industry right now. At the same time, though, I strongly believe a good pro still wants to play football, and that will play a part in the club they choose. I think that's testament to the why Jesus actually came to Arsenal, because he did have other offers. You know, other things do contribute to why a player wants to move. You know, it might be the manager, it might be, you know, the project that they've got going on, or it might be the amount of minutes he can play. I think those things do help, you know, when you are signing for a club. So I think, yeah, it is a tricky one. It really is. Now, the reason why I brought this comment up is because I'm going to be honest, I've never been completely convinced by Gakpo. I don't buy too much into his stats in the Dutch league. And the reason why that is because I've gone down that route before with players where I've seen them absolutely smashing up the Dutch league, the French league, etc. And I've just gone, I've gone with it. I just ran with it. And I've been massively disappointed once they've come to the club or once they've come to the Premier League and signed for another team. So I don't read too much into his stats at PSV. Secondly, admittedly, I've not watched him week in, week out. But the times I have watched him in either the Europa League, the Champions League, or in the World Cup, even when he's scored, he's not massively impressed me in terms of performance. He's got on the score sheet. He's scored a couple of goals this World Cup. So obviously his price tag has gone through the roof, probably tripled to what we were talking about before. But he's not massively impressed me. However, the Jesus injury, it's making me slightly warm to the idea of Gakpo, only because he is a wide player that can play centrally. But the reason why I say that is because I am not confident in Eddie's abilities or in the fact that Martinelli is the answer down the middle just yet. What are your views on Gakpo and a potential move from Arsenal in January?
Let me jump first because I'm about to shoot soon, Tony. Sorry, bro. Yeah. Again, same as you, G. I haven't watched him religiously. You see the numbers. Again, he's a confident boy in front of goal. That's what that shows me. He knows where the target is.
Yeah.
You still got to put your chances away. I understand what you're saying about coming into the new league, but we've seen guys who have played in the toughest leagues come to England, or guys that are playing the Prem go to another team and struggle.
Very true.
Can't read too much into it. However, stature-wise, he looks a good build. I wouldn't be against it because he fits the philosophy of he's a young player. He can play two positions. probably can play free, probably can play on the right. But again, it's the sell on value on him. It's not a stop. Do you know what I mean? You can still work with him for a long time. But equally, what I will say is I was having this conversation with someone the other day, and I think this is just where football is now. I don't think anybody who I watch really has me off my seat and impresses me like that. Like I look back at previous tournaments, and you have these standout moments. El Hadj Diouf, for instance, James Rodriguez. These guys all of a sudden they burst on the scene, and you're just like, whoa. Like no one's really done that for me. Even Goncalo Ramos has scored a hat trick, so now I'm going to actively be watching him next game. But I'm watching all the wingers. Like, do you know what I mean? I think Martinelli's had one of the better performances. Like, he was constant. Whereas even Mbappe's in and out of a game. Like, yes, he pops up with 2 goals, and it's like he's a hero. But it's like he didn't do much else during the game. Like, So I think it's judged now because I think football's just played a different. All of it. It's very much about, and then these two are going to excite you. The game's really changed. So what we're seeing of Gakpo, is it the real Gakpo? I don't know, because his role at Holland might be something completely different, and he comes somewhere else and they unlock something, or give him a bit more freedom, or I mean. So I can't. Yeah, I'm not. I said my stance on every transfer now is I'm just going to back and trust Arteta and Edu that they've done their due diligence. They're bringing someone in. It's because he fits the mold. We signed Pepe for 70 million, all singing, all dancing.
He was the one that I was referring to.
Look how that's worked out for us. Do you know what I mean? United signed Sancho for however much, and then they signed Anthony, and that looks complete different players. And that's just because Anthony's mentality more than anything. I don't think there's much in terms of quality difference between Sancho and Anthony, but Anthony just seems to have a hunger about him. Sancho doesn't seem to have that, and so sometimes it's about the personality, how the style of play, everything else around it. So I'm easy. Whatever Arsenal decide to do, I'm just going with it.
Yeah, I know you got a rush here, Gumsa. So I'm going to ask you a quick question. I know Nigel.
Substitution.
Yeah, we got Nigel in the background. I'm going to bring you in shortly, Nigel. Don't worry. But before you go, Gumsa, I just want to ask. Obviously, with the Jesus injury, will the Jesus injury derail our season?
In terms of when you say derail, so for me, a derailment would mean we don't finish in the top 4.
Okay.
And I don't think his injury does that to us. I don't. We're tough. Do we win the title at this moment? I still say no. Do we beat Newcastle? I still say it's 50-50 with or without Jesus. So for me, if we don't finish in the top 4, then I can say we derail. But if we finish 4th, then we met our objectives. We done what we had to do. So yeah, I don't think it derails us at all. I think it's just going to change us for a few weeks. We might lose a little bit, but we might gain. You never know. Do you know what I mean? Hey, Eddie might come in and just start finishing, and all of a sudden you're just like, wait, let me bring my guy. Well, I said that. Hold on. What are you laughing for? Anyway.
Gumsa, I've missed you, bro.
Nothing coming in January. You wait.
Come with the energy. Oh yeah, now my people.
Listen,
Gumsa has gone mad. Actually, it's not. This is normal Gumsa. This is normal.
You know,
Gumsa.
I believe in my guy. You know, I believe in my guy.
Then he'd be mad.
Bro, I don't expect anything else, man. That's why it's perfect timing. Like, I ask Gumsa that question. Gumsa's going. Nigel comes in. Perfect.
Bro, you're lucky, bro. They let you off lightly.
I actually want to stay because if you lot talk bad on my boy Eddie, I'm not going to be happy, boy. You lot are lucky. I've got to go.
I'm trying to call the number, Gumsa, but it's not going through. You said the call's not going through to Eddie. I'm trying to call him. It's not entering.
Well, yeah, man.
I will laugh last. Yeah, I will laugh last. We're going to revisit this. I might just sit there, hands in my head, or I might just be grinning like this here, but time will tell. As I said, I just got to believe in what we're doing. And again, we'll wait and see. We'll just wait and see. We'll wait and see what happens. Time will tell. Yeah. But for now, right, guys, sorry, I got to bounce, but it's all up.
Take it easy, man. Take it easy, bro. Have a good one.
All right. Peace.
But yeah, I'm going to